What's going on, everyone? This is Coach Ricks, and you've been at Coaches Talk, where we discuss all things sports related, college football related, and all things in between. This is Mike. And before we get started today, I'd like you please hit that like button, push that red subscribe button, ring that bell so you won't miss any content that me and Mike got going forward. What's going on, Mike? Are you there? I think he jumped out again and everything. I think he's having a little bit of problem with his internet today. But we're going to try to jump into some of the discussions that we have about is the SEC top heavy, and we're going to look into some of the stats that we have going down to compare are the top four teams top heavy. There you go, Mike. I think he's coming in right now. All the four teams top heavy, or is the SEC just a complete conference? And Mike, are you there? I think he's having a little bit of difficulty and everything, man. But we're gonna try to get Mike in here. I know he can hear me. I'm gonna try to see if we can get his internet up and going. I think we've had a little outlets all over town today, so mine might break out, here in a few minutes. But if so, please bear with me. But we're going to try to discuss top heavy teams in the SEC to see if the SEC is top heavy between your teams like Alabama, Auburn, LSU, and Georgia. Those teams have always been the teams that have carried the weight for the SEC. But in my opinion, I think that it's just a tough conference. I think the conference is a little bit top heavy, but we really don't know due to the scheduling and due to the way that they play. I think that the teams like Georgia, LSU, uh, Auburn, and Alabama, I think they play a heavy schedule, but I think that they play the best during the times when they play opponents. Some opponents in the mid-level teams like your Tennessees, your Auburns, your Kentuckys, your Arkansas, those teams they play good, but they don't play big games. I think the big games tend to overshadow them. So, Mike, are you there?
Yeah, you
I
hear me?
think yeah, I can hear you, man. Hey, we can hear you, man. I think, yeah, there it is right there. We're just trying, man, to compare, man, is the SEC top heavy? A lot of people, in the media outlet think that they are top heavy. Your teams like your Alabama, your LSU's, your Auburns, and your Georgias. I just think that the conference is an overall conference, but the teams like the Alabamas and Auburns and LSU's and Georgia, I think they play big games, and I think they show up for big games, and it tends to overshadow that whole conference. What's your thought on that?
Blue team always been there. Yeah, recently, but these last 2 3 years there, they hadn't been there in a long time. Um,
I think you
but
still
there,
breaking out, Mike. I think you still
do you hear
breaking out,
me?
man. You're coming and going. You're coming and going. I'm sorry about that, guys. Like I said, we're gonna try to get this fixed and everything, but just gonna try to go on until Mike comes back in. But if you look at the overall aspect of this, the SEC, Alabama for the last 14 years has won 8 SEC championships. So other teams like Auburn has won two, other teams like LSU's won two, and up and coming Georgia, they are dominating the SEC now. They've won two. But if you look at the Tennessees, the Kentuckys, the Missouris, even the Ole Miss, those mid-level teams that tend to get a lot of the praise, they get a lot of the praise because they also have the talent to play at the high level. But the mid-level teams don't show up for big games like your Alabamas, your Auburns, your LSU's, and your Georgias. So, Mike, oh, there you are. You got me now, man.
Yeah, I hear you. Yeah, I've been hearing you. I don't know why you can't hear me.
I can hear you, man. You just pause sometimes, so we gonna roll with it. As long
Okay,
as we can hear you and everything, we're gonna roll with you. What's your
right, right.
thought on the SEC being a top heavy team?
I feel like I feel like every conference has got top heavy teams. You
Yeah,
know, they always have teams that always show up. That's always first, second, or third, or fourth in the conference. Uh, they're just the popular teams. Everybody, Ohio States, the Michigan, there's going to be good teams. always got the Alabamas. Georgia recently has been good. They weren't that good, like from the 2 or 3 years ago. But we know before they were a good team. You're getting a lot of good Georgia guys out of there staying home. Like I said, it's just like the other kind. They're going to have the top 4 teams that the conference, and we have the team bowl games. So I think just like the other team, in the conference, the top guys, but the only thing is that they're actually winning the national championships.
Yeah. Well, I mean, but when you look at it as an overall thing, if you look at the SEC is 64-41 against your teams from the Big 12, the ACC, the Pac-12, and the Big 10 in your group of fives. So, but out of those 64 wins, Alabama and Georgia and LSU have 50 of those. So you only have 14 victories coming from other mid-level and even the lower level SEC teams. So when you look at the stats, it is a top-heavy team if you look at the stats. But I think that the stats sometimes overshadow, the whole overall conference, because if you take away the Alabamas, the LSUs, the Georgias, and the Auburns, you're just going to have an ACC team, ACC conference, a Pac-12 conference. You're going to have a Big 12 conference. You're taking away the meat and potatoes of that conference. So you're just going to have a group of 5, because your Ole Miss haven't won anything. Your Kentuckys haven't won anything. A Vanderbilt damn sure ain't won anything. So your mid-level teams are pretty much getting the fruits of labor from your Georgias, your Alabamas, your LSUs, and your Auburns, pretty much.
And Alabama. Like I said, I think if you look at I think if you look at conferences, it's like that. Like you could take the Pac-12. Back then you had the SCs, the UCLAs, the Oregons that won a majority of the games. You look at the 10, Penn State and Ohio State and Michigan, winning most of the games. It wasn't coming from Northwestern and Illinois, you had Indiana, I mean, this ain't basketball. So, I think you can look at every conference as being top heavy. You got to have mid of the schools. You always have schools little, because let's be honest, a lot of times a football player is not going to go to a basketball school. You don't go to Indiana to play football. Go to Indiana to play basketball.
Yeah. Well, I mean, if you look at it from that point of view, what you just said, then that means your teams like Kentucky basketball school. That means your schools like South Carolina girls basketball pretty much runs that school. If you look at your Florida softball pretty runs that school. So you're right. Different sports. We can look at it from a different way of things. I think Tennessee softball, Tennessee football, Tennessee basketball they're doing good at that college. So you can't make it all about football. You can't make it all about basketball. You can make it all about softball, because that's a whole complete school.
Right.
What I'm saying is your teams like Vanderbilt, your teams like Arkansas. Arkansas is coming back up. Arkansas's track team is real heavy when it comes to the SEC.
Well, Vanderbilt's known for baseball. They're known for baseball. They have an excellent baseball team. Yeah.
Well,
but I think like the SEC this year, I think the SEC this year will have more teams that's contributing to wins than past years, because you have a lot more strong teams that's projected to be good. What I kind of did was I broke down I broke down 3 sections. I broke down an 8 to 12 win section in the SEC. I
Okay.
broke down a 6 to 8 win section, and I did 6 to 8 because 6 wins gets you into a bowl game.
Yeah.
And then I did the other wins, which is 5 or less. So I
Okay.
broke down the SEC. When you told me the topic, I broke it down, and for my 8 to 12 win teams, I have Texas A&M. I'm thinking they're going to win 8 to 9 games.
Okay.
Tennessee also 8 to 9 games. LSU is in the 8 to 9 game range.
Okay.
Ole Miss, because they have a lot of transfers from the transfer portal and they recruited well. I got them in the 9 to 10 and looking at schedules and stuff. Alabama 9 to 10. Georgia, I
Well,
have
since you're doing
10
that,
to
here, let's do
11.
like this. Since you're looking at the schedule, let's just pull the schedule up so we can, see what the overall. Let me get this going. Just look at the overall of this schedule, so we can show that what get a good view of what we're trying to do.
Mm-hmm.
All right, let's get this up here. So let's just do Alabama's. Let's just do Alabama's and break it through, so we can see how it is. If you look at the Alabamas, Arkansas, Auburn, and Florida, and Georgia, Kentucky, LSU, when you break it down, there's no reason why Arkansas should be playing UAPB. There's no reason why Alabama should be playing Western Kentucky. So these are, but these are things I'm
Well,
trying to
for
say is
those of you who
that
don't
you,
know, UAPB, UAPB is Arkansas Pine Bluff. For those of you who
yeah,
don't know,
yeah, UAPB, University of Arkansas Pine Bluff. But then you got like Ole Miss playing Foreman, and then you got like Missouri
right?
playing Missouri State, and then Mississippi State playing Eastern Kentucky. What I'm trying to say is that I get it that the SEC conference is deep. I get it that it is the top nonchalant conference. But when you look at the overall aspect of that, man, you can't keep playing teams like this and then say that your conference and everything is a deep conference.
Well, a
It's
lot of
gonna
those
always
teams it
go ahead.
only benefits those teams. It only benefits those teams that they're playing, because those teams that they're playing are the schools that's getting paid to play. They're
Yeah.
paying you to come take that butt whooping, as we used to say. They're paying you to come get a butt whooping. And
Yeah.
I've been at one of those schools. Elizabeth City State is a Division II university that I went to, HBCU, and we played NC State. We played Virginia Tech. We played William and Mary. We
Yeah.
played bigger schools, and we basically contributed to their wins. But we also played some of those schools where we almost beat them. And
Yeah.
we see some of those schools, and like when you have the Final Four going on, the tournament, you see a lot of those lower seeded teams beating good schools because they got opportunity. So even I think football is a lot different than basketball. Football is more, to me, it's more physical. You got these guys who you got another football school that could even touch their practice, but they're for the school. You know what I'm saying? So it's just, to me, bigger, they're stronger, the weight program is way better. It just, we had players at Elizabeth City State that actually played in D1 schools. We had one
Okay.
guy, I remember, he played at Bowling Green. And when I looked at pictures of him at Bowling Green, I'm like, dude, you're not the same guy. Like, that
Yeah.
dude, Bowling Green, was a beast. I don't know who we got. You know what I'm saying? But, just the weight programs are even a lot different. It's
Yeah.
just, it's levels to it.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I agree with that, man. I really do. I agree with that. I just think that even when there's levels to it, you still got to have some consistency and everything when you start playing these teams. Um, because when it
Mm-hmm.
comes down to it, you're going to have, I mean, if you look at the new preseason poll, it has 9 teams from the SEC in the top 25. 9 teams.
Mm-hmm.
But if you look at the other 7 teams, no, other 17, there's 16 teams in there. If you look at the other 7 teams, those other 7 teams can go to a different conference and be a top heavy team. Because I
Yeah.
guarantee you, if you take South Carolina and Arkansas and Florida and Kentucky and put them in the ACC or the Big 12.
I don't think some of those teams. Auburn maybe, but not South Carolina. South Carolina's
I think South
trash.
Carolina, man, is a physical team, man. I just think they haven't got the talent. They haven't got the
Yeah, they
talent.
don't. They don't. Yeah, they don't have the talent. I mean, and then we know style makes plays too. Like style wins games too. So if they have a different style that somebody is not seeing on film or whatever, we know that, style makes games too. And like
Yeah,
they say, any given Sunday, I think any given Saturday sometimes when it comes to these schools. Because you'll have a school one week will go and play Alabama to the Auburn. Auburn always plays Alabama hard, but
yeah.
then the following week they'll go get blown out by somebody else that's less caliber, and it's like, what are you doing? So
Yeah.
yeah, some
No.
some some teams can transition. And I say the teams that's middle of the road. Some
Yeah.
of those teams can go to other conferences and do better than what they're doing in their conference. I do believe that.
Yeah. I believe that and everything, but I think that if we're saying that the SEC is the most dominant conference, when you take your mid-level teams and put them in a different conference, wouldn't you think that those teams would be pretty much at the top because the level of physicality, the level of the big boys in the trenches is deeper than any other conference other than the Big Ten, because the Big Ten is the only one that will have other Joes like the SEC Joes. They got the big boys in the trenches. They got those big boys from Nebraska, those big boys from Iowa, those big boys, from Michigan. They get physical in the trenches. So I think that if you take the South Carolinas and the Floridas and uh, the Kentuckys and you put them in the Big 12, I think they can really be effective because everybody knows in the Big 12, they want to spread you out. They want to maximize the whole field. They want to put you in open space and make you go vertical, make you go horizontal and everything versus going vertical. So I think that those teams in the SEC can come into the Big 12 or the ACC and be pretty well and be pretty good. That's just my thought.
Um, Yeah, I mean, I can see where you're coming from also. But like I said, to me, it's playing styles too. Because if you got this squad over here, got a lot of quick guys, and this other squad over here got a bunch of big guys that can't run with those quick guys,
Yeah,
then a lot of times too, you got this guy off the ball. You got these big slow guys, and this guy is firing off the ball quicker than anybody. He can cause some confusion, even if he is smaller. I think the
yeah,
only advantage to having bigger guys is that later in the third and the fourth quarters when it's the trenches, or you need that 3rd and 1 or the 3rd and 2 and the 4th and 1. Yeah, you do need those big guys, but I've seen smaller players dominate bigger players, because the bigger players are, you got some that's out of shape
yeah.
and they're not, third, fourth quarter, they gassing. They over there with the oxygen mask, and you know what I'm
Well, that's what I
saying?
mean.
So
Your top heavy
mhm,
teams have that. Let's look the interior. Some
mhm,
teams in like your Alabamas, your Georgias, your LSUs, and Auburn's, they can go 6, 7, 8 deep in the interior. What other mid-level team
mhm,
can do that? Arkansas can only go so deep. Kentucky can only go so deep. South Carolina can only go so deep. So that's when the games come on the SEC and everything, the first quarter, it might be tight. it might be close, and we're like, hey man, we're in for a good game. Then you go somewhere and take a
Right.
break and come back at in the third quarter, and it's 35-0 because
Hmm.
you can't sub in and rest. If you don't have the Joes to go in there, because if you take out your starters and bring somebody else in, he might not be at the level of what you just took out. Well, Alabama and Auburn and Georgia and LSU, they can do that. They can take
Oh
some
yeah,
guys
yeah,
out, and then you're not losing a beat. So
yeah.
to say it's top heavy, I really don't know. I think I can say yes and no. Top heavy
Hmm.
because Alabama's won 8 of the last 14, then 2, 2, 2 for LSU, Georgia, and Auburn. Nobody else has won one.
Right.
So just those four teams have been the recipient of the last 14 SEC championships. So let's look at the Big 12. Let's say, okay, well, for the last 20 years, Oklahoma's won 14. Texas won 2. Well, no. Yeah. No, Texas. Yeah, Texas won 2. Baylor's won 2. And I think K State won 1. So when you look at the overall of that and everything, man, I would say, and this has been just me, I would say that the Big 12 is more top heavy than the SEC because once you
Okay.
remove Texas and
Yeah.
Oklahoma, what else is there?
Right.
They're the only two teams
Um.
that have went to the CFP from the Big 12.
Right.
They're the only
And
ones.
see, I look at too. I look at the bowl games too. A lot of times, they when they have the different conferences playing against each other in the bowl games. A lot of times, um, when you look at the breakdown of like this SEC team played this other conference. A lot of times when they're playing these bowl games, man, it becomes like an even Steven type of thing. Like no conference is just dominating the bowl games. You have some years where this conference, did well in the bowl games. Like I remember like 2 years ago, the ACC did very well in the bowl games, and
Yeah.
it's like wow, like they did well. So it's like when you take that and you say, hey, well, let's look at the bowl games because you're not playing your same conference, you're playing other conferences, and different years people just do well against certain schools. Like I said, I just think it's a lot of the coaching. I think it's a lot of the playing style, and then too, a lot of times nowadays we can't even say that because you got so many guys that sit out the bowl games anyway.
Yeah.
So you got this really good team who's got like 8 guys probably gonna get drafted, not even playing. So
Yeah.
now you're playing freshmen and guys who redshirted and stuff. So it's really confusing a lot of times because you're not getting the real play when it comes to the bowl games.
Well, yes and no. Yes and no. It is sometimes the matchups. Um, I think that when we sit here, when the bowl season comes, we sit here and we like, before we even do any type of stats, before we do any type of background, before we do any type of homework on who plays what and what did what, we'll sit there and go, oh, this team can beat that team. This team can beat that team
Hmm.
because we're going by not just what we think, but by the eye test. And
Eye
sometimes we
test,
think,
yeah.
oh, that's an SEC team playing a group of 5. Oh, that's an automatic win. It might not be because
Mhm.
I always tell people, and this is the most realistic way I can say it: 4-3 is 4-3. It don't matter where you at. And if
Hmm.
you're a 6'2", 215-pound receiver, you're a 6'2", 215-pound receiver. There ain't no stars to go behind it. It's heart and determination when you start playing these teams that are, as we want to say, they outmatch you or over, they outweigh you in the terms of the interior skills players, coaching, and the quarterback play.
Hmm.
I just don't see the SEC not being top heavy. I just think if you remove your Alabamas, your Auburn, and your LSU and your Georgias, the SEC is just another conference with mid-level teams because
Because
nobody else
this
has done
this year,
anything. Yeah,
like I
go
said,
ahead.
this year coming up, I have 8 teams that's 8 wins or more. I got 8 teams that's 8 wins or more.
Okay.
For the 6 and 8 teams, I got I got 3 teams that should, that I'm thinking is in the 6 to 8 range, which will get them a bowl game.
Okay.
And for the 5 and below teams, I got 1, 2, 3, 4. I got 5 teams, and those teams are Mississippi State, Arkansas, Vanderbilt, Florida, and South Carolina.
Okay. You don't
Those are
have
the
Kentucky
teams
in
I
there?
got. Huh?
You don't have
No,
Kentucky in
actually,
there? You have
no, actually, I got Kentucky in the 6 to 8 wins.
okay. Yeah. No, I mean that sounds about right, man, because when you look at the overall totality of all of that, those teams will play your first 3 games is always going to be lesser talent. You're going to play
Yeah.
your Sister Mary the Blind and all of them and William and Mary and South Carolina State and all that. You're going to play those teams and get those wins. So those are 3 automatic wins right there by playing your
Mm-hmm.
non-conference schedules. Then you're going to also have another FCS school in the middle of the season. So that's going to be 4 wins. So you mean to tell me that out of the 8 remaining games, you can't win 2 to get bowl eligible?
Right.
I
I
think
mean
I
that
think I
that's
mean like
well
I said,
that's where Oklahoma is. Oklahoma's in that position because you guys have the first 4 games. It's like a cakewalk, or should be a cakewalk. So you should be at least
that
four and
fourth one is
zero.
gonna be hard. That fourth one's gonna be hard. I mean,
Mm,
people don't understand. Tennessee is gonna be a good game. I think that we'll pull away in the second half, but that's Josh Heupel coming back
mm-hmm,
home. He was the last quarterback to
mm,
win a championship for Oklahoma. Coming back home, he got fired because the fans thought he couldn't, call the offense, and Oklahoma's offense was very
mm-hmm,
stagnant when he was here, so he got fired. I think he has a little bit of hostility, a little bit of anger, a little bit of hurt. So the first few quarters are going to be very exciting because I know he's going to come in with a game plan to try and do some trick plays, tries to do some misdirections, and do that
mm-hmm.
to keep the game close. But the only thing that I give OU credit is when you got 9 returning starters on defense, they seen it all.
Right.
And you
Mm-hmm,
and I both know if we play together for so long and we play a team, you ain't got to tell me where to be. I know where to be. I know where you're going to be. I know what you're going to do.
mm-hmm,
We don't have to communicate and give hand signs about, hey, you need to be here, you need to be here. You're already gonna know where you need to be. So it's I mean, I'm hoping the first 4 games will be a cakewalk, but I just can't see it, man. That is the first SEC game also. And no one wants to lose to Oklahoma from the SEC. No one wants to get that first loss to Oklahoma from the SEC.
yeah. And I see it too as a trust thing also. When you got a defensive lineman and you see the players going away from you, do you trust the guys on the other side of the ball to stop the people, or are you going to shoot down the line and get out of position? So now they don't ran a misdirection play, and now you're out of position because you didn't trust the
And stay
guys
home.
on the other side on
Yeah.
the other side of the ball to stop them. So I think that's a lot of things too, where it's a trust thing. Like you said, if you got 9 players returning on defense, they trust each other because they played
Yeah.
with each other. They, like you said,
Yeah.
they know what each other's gonna do. So if I see on film that this guy is constantly getting out of position on a run play to the other side, yeah, I'm gonna take advantage of that every single time. And that's something you see on film. This guy just shot down the line, and forget about him keeping his end, his side of the ball, keeping the play, where it should be. yeah, it's about that, and I think Oklahoma's definitely going to benefit from having the team coming back. I don't see the 10 wins like you see, but I wouldn't be surprised because I being on teams before, I know how it is to be in the trenches with your guys and you're underrated or you're not supposed to win. You come in with a chip on your shoulder. You come in like we ain't got nothing to lose, so we gonna ball out. And I also know how it is to be the team that's supposed to blow the other team out, and you don't even come out playing good. You just come out like they gonna lay down, and they don't. Next thing you know, you in a battle.
in a dogfight. Well,
Yeah.
the reason why, honestly, Mike, I feel the way I feel, and most OU fans feel the way they feel. We are we've taken all the criticism and we've been humble. We
Mm-hmm.
haven't, you know, we've heard, oh, they're gonna come in here and they're gonna win 5 games. They're gonna come in here and they're gonna really be exposed. They're gonna come in here and they're gonna see how physical the SEC is, and the offensive line is this, and the running backs won't. We've heard all of that, and we've stayed quiet. We've stayed, you know, non-concerned about what people think and what they're gonna do. Our coach is telling us one thing. Damn what they say. Get on the field and show them that you belong. That's it.
Mm-hmm.
But
Play ball.
n-
Yeah.
nine returning starters on defense. Then you get the number one defensive recruit out of the portal that everybody in the SEC wanted, and you got him
Mm-hmm.
to add to that 9-man rotation or that 9-man that's returning on defense.
Mm-hmm.
But then what nobody is talking about, nobody, we talked about it today with a gentleman that was on the podcast. I was on with his podcast earlier. He was like, why do you guys think Oklahoma is going to do so well in the SEC? And I'm like, the only bad portion of the bad things that everyone's saying about Oklahoma is the offensive line. But
Mm-hmm.
I look back and got some stats. Since 2010, Oklahoma has put 14, 14 offensive linemen in the NFL. 14.
Mm-hmm.
That's most than anybody. Now I'll take that back because I do believe Iowa and Michigan and Alabama have put some offensive linemen in there as well that can compete. But when the SEC coaches want an offensive lineman, they come to Oklahoma to see what Bill Beanbo has been doing to put guys in the NFL consistently. And I'm not talking about just, you can't win awards for the best offensive line and offensive line coach and then think that you can't patch together a squad or offensive line to compete in the SEC. Yes, the SEC is daunting, but man, I don't think that anyone understands that the history and the tradition that Oklahoma has. Oklahoma has never been one of those teams to come in there and beat a Nebraska or come in there and beat an Iowa or Indiana or South Carolina. They're going to come in and they're going to make somebody ass get up, and I'm going to take your seat. And from now on, because it ain't just Oklahoma, it's Texas too. Now, I don't like Texas, but they're getting all this love because of what they did last year. They
Mm-hmm.
went into Alabama and beat Alabama, and no one ever
Mm-hmm.
saw it. And I mean, beat them by 10 points. No one's ever done
Yeah.
it to Nick Saban. But
Mm-hmm.
that same team that went into Tuscaloosa and beat Alabama by 10, OU beat them and got everybody coming back on defense except two. But then you add the number one recruit in the portal on defense to that same defense that held Texas in check. So I just think everybody just overlooking it, man. I mean, that's just how I feel. And like I said, if OU goes in there and win 5 6 games, I'll be the first one to say, you know what, y'all were right, I was wrong. But I just don't see
I,
it because you got seniors on that defense that, I mean, and that's what we always talk about. Everybody wants to leave to go to the NFL early, But when you got a coach that players want to come back and play for to prove we belong in this defense, we can. Another thing, SEC plays man to man on defense. Most SEC teams play man to man on defense. You know, Oklahoma got all of their receivers coming back except for Drake Stoops, and then they added the
Mhm.
number one transfer portal receiver. I mean, the number one receiver out of the portal. So you can't play man to man against the five best receivers that I think will be in the conference. Because
Mhm.
then you they're gonna run on you, and then when you load the box, you're man to man. You and I both know how hard it is to play man to man in Division 1 and everything, or even Division 2. It's hard to play man to man. You need help from your brothers in playing zone in order to keep everybody in check.
Yeah. Even with
But then,
all even to me it's
go ahead.
kind of confusing. It's kind of confusing where they're ranking Oklahoma's defense at, because even with all that you just said, which is, all facts, they're still ranked like 33rd. They're like ranked like in the 30s in the nation as far as defense. And I'm like, how? Like, you know what I'm saying? I'm like, how is that they're ranked
There were four
33rd?
games. There were 4 games last year that guys got hurt. We lost two
Yeah.
games. We lost the 2 games that we lost because our middle linebacker was out.
Hmm.
And you and I both know if a person like Ray Lewis is off the Baltimore Ravens team defense, that's a big factor because
Yes, definitely.
he's a heart and soul of that defense. But when he came back, it was like a well-oiled machine. They just kept on rolling.
Mhm.
He missed those games, and that team didn't have the depth that they have now. So now those guys that took his place and started for him have that 1 year under their belt to go in and say, okay, so now when he goes out and subs out, we can bring him in and we're not losing anything. That's the only reason why they are ranked so low. But the first 7 games last year, Oklahoma was ranked in the top 3 or 4 on every statistical thing.
Mhm.
Tackles for loss, best on third down, turnovers. I mean, they were number 2 in turnovers for all last year. So all those guys came back. I just think that no one really wants to give OU love and everything, man, is because they dominated so well in the Big 12, and everyone's like, "Well, you won't do that here in the SEC."
Mhm.
Those 10-win seasons that you had in the Big 12 and 12-win seasons, that's done. But here's the thing: what if they come in there and do that? Then what are you going to say?
Yeah. Then what? So I also think, like, going back to the whole Texas thing. I watched that game last year, Texas Alabama, and I think Texas benefited from playing Alabama early too. They
Yep,
played them early.
that quarterback
Alabama
couldn't throw the ball in
Alabama
the
was
ocean.
going through Alabama was going through a quarterback crisis where they didn't know
Yep,
who was going to be the starting quarterback.
yep.
The I forgot the black kid's name who ended up taking over, but
Milroy,
he wasn't
Milroy,
even that good at that time. Like,
Milroy
they
is
just,
his
to
name.
me, yeah, to me, Texas benefited from playing that team early. I
Oh
think if
yeah,
they had replayed again, I think
smack
Alabama
that ass.
would have, yeah.
Well, you catch people at the right time, and you're right. That's why when I say we're catching Tennessee at the right time, that
Hmm.
freshman quarterback going up against an experienced defense. The first 3 games against Tulane and Houston and Temple, they're not going to show them anything because
Right.
you ain't got to. Playing teams
Yeah.
like that, you can play base defense, and your talent is overwhelming to where you ain't got to do anything against those 3 teams. So you can't come in there and say, okay, we saw this in game 1, we saw this in game 2, we saw this in game 3, so they're going to do this. No, but Brent Venables is going to throw everything at him. I really believe, man, what Kirby Smart said when they asked him about Brent Venables. He said he is the most meticulous defensive coordinator he's ever seen. If he tells you to be at three
Hmm.
feet, you be at 3 feet, not 2.5, because there's a
Right.
reason why he has you be at 3 instead of 2.5, because you're at 2.5 and you go to reach for a guy and you can't put your hands on him. But if you was at 3 feet, you put your hands on him, is a big difference. So
Hmm.
to have Kirby Smart to even talk about how good you are as a defensive coordinator, that means something. And he's the only one giving all you credit.
Hmm.
He's the only one that at SEC's media day, he was like, everyone's underestimating Oklahoma.
Hmm.
He said
And I
everybody's talking
think too,
about Texas.
you guys have had a good run of quarterbacks too, and I just think like the quarterback situation. That's why I was shocked when you said that they had a lot of linemen going to the league, because you had a lot of quarterbacks that were basically helping the line. You got a scrambling quarterback, you can help the line out a lot. And so,
Yeah,
to me, I think OU had they had a string of quarterbacks who were mobile, who can move around, scramble.
yeah,
You know,
yeah,
that's why a lot of times when they be like I knew Johnny Manziel wasn't going to be good. I knew he wasn't going to be good because there was a lot of balls that he just threw up. He just threw up 50-50 balls, and the receiver
yeah,
is the one who went and got the ball. They
yeah.
you didn't throw him open. The receiver went and got the ball. You know what I'm saying? So
Yeah.
it was a lot of times that he scrambled and just tossed it up. So there's certain quarterbacks that I watch in college, and I'm like the Alabama kid that's playing for Carolina now. Um, I'm like, I don't see him ever becoming an NFL quarterback. I just don't.
Well, here's the thing, Mike. You have some quarterbacks that are good in college, some
Hmm.
quarterbacks that are not good in college but good in the NFL because
Hmm.
the game changes for them.
Right.
There would never be another Kyler Murray ever.
Right.
I mean, there'll never be another Baker. And I believe you're right. I believe that OU fans have been spoiled due to quarterback play. But
Hmm.
when you look at the quarterback we got now, the last the last thing that the media saw of Jackson Arnold is he threw 2 interceptions in the bowl game. I
Hmm.
think he might have thrown 3. I want to say 2 for sure, but he might have thrown 3. And all it was he saw a guy and he waited a little bit more to make sure there was no one around and threw it. And by the time he threw it, the defense was already breaking. If he would have
Hmm.
had more time with the ones in the season, I think Jackson Arnold would have done a great thing because to throw for 365 yards in a bowl game against a senior led defense, he can show what he can do. But I just think that that was just no one really cared about that bowl game anyway. No one really cared. It was just his way of showing what's to come. But what I loved
Hmm.
about that game was when Danny Stutzman came to him after the ball game and ran and found him and told him to keep his head up. We're gonna ride with
Hmm.
you. You are quarterback of the future. We go as
Hmm.
far as you take us. But I think now that he's the head dog, that he's the number one, you and I both know that if you're sharing the ball or sharing time on the field, you won't be able to gel with the ones. You won't be able to gel with the receivers because you can't get that
Right.
timing right. That timing is very
Hmm.
important. Very, very important to get that timing right. But if you are trying to sit here and say Jackson Arnold is not Kyler Murray, not Jalen Hurts, not Baker Mayfield, not Kalen Williams, he's not. Doesn't mean that he can't do what they can do because he can throw the ball 60 yards
Hmm.
on the dime like Kalen Williams. He can
Right.
scramble like Kalen Williams. He can run you over like Jalen Hurts because he's 6'2", 220 quarterback. So I think everybody's just underestimating him, man, because they think that he's going to fail. All I heard in the falls camps is, well, you know, the defense has been winning. He's still struggling, but what other defense is he going to play that's better than what he is playing against every single day in practice? Only one that I can
Yeah,
think
that
of.
makes
That's
sense.
Alabama. Alabama's Alabama.
Hmm.
We can sit here and say Alabama ain't good, but Alabama gonna always have talent. But that
Well,
defense he's going up against right now in practice every
mm,
single day is going to be the best defense he plays all season. Pretty, I mean, give or take Alabama.
mhm,
So he's getting baptized by fire. The way I look at it, you want to make the mistakes
right.
against your team, against the best defense that you're playing in the SEC. Now Georgia, I think, has the best defense in the SEC. I think
Well,
everybody's giving
I was going to ask that question. Yeah, I was going to
yes,
ask that. Do you guys play Georgia this year?
no, Texas does.
Now that's another good defense.
Oh yeah, Georgia's going. Man, look, I don't. I think that, like I was trying to tell you last week, man, the media wants Texas to be good. They need for Texas to be good. Texas sales. When Texas is good and OU's good, it's good for everyone. But by you adding Texas and Oklahoma to the SEC, it just solidified that the SEC is the best conference. Now, don't get me wrong. I think adding UCLA, Oregon, USC, and um, there's another one, Washington, to the Big Ten, that was good. But be honest, would you rather have Texas and Oklahoma, or would you rather have UCLA, Washington, Oregon, and USC?
Well,
And I'm asking you because you're a Cali
before
boy.
Tech,
I'm I'm asking you because
before
you're a Cali boy.
before Tech, before Texas last year, I would say UCLA and SC
Thank
because Texas ain't been good. Yeah.
thank you.
Um,
My point
Oklahoma,
exactly.
Oklahoma. Yes, Oklahoma's been putting butts in the seats. They've been dynamic, like you said. They've had dynamic quarterback play. They have some quarterbacks in the NFL. But yeah, I think the only benefit that they're getting is Oklahoma. I'm sorry. Yeah, you had a good Texas team last year, and they may be they may have had a good recruiting, core. But yeah, Texas hasn't been good. Haven't been good. So they have
No.
to prove themselves. They have to prove themselves. And I think it was last year, which they did. They ball, but they didn't win the ship like they thought they were going to do. And I didn't have any confidence that they was going to win the ship.
Man, I want you, and this is between me and you. Whenever we get off here, I want you to look at two games.
Mm-hmm.
Honestly, God, I want you to look at two games. I want you to watch the Kansas game with Oklahoma. I want you to watch the Oklahoma State game in Oklahoma. All right. And the reason why I say that is I gave this assignment to a buddy of mine on another podcast, man, and he called me. He said, "You know what? You damn right, man. I saw 10 missed calls on everything from both sides of that game. I think we lost Mike again. We had 10 or 12 bad calls in those games. Now, did it lead to us losing? Probably not. But when you have that many, and like I said, I'm not trying to say the SEC, the Big 12. I'm not trying to say that I'm not sorry about that, Mike. What I said, Mike, was if you look at that game, there were 12 bad calls in that, and then in the Oklahoma State was one so atrocious that even the commentator was like, "You can't end the game like that when the guy's getting tackled in the end zone and he can't catch the ball, and you look at the other ref, the other ref look at you, and then y'all just turn your back and walk away." The Big 12 did not want Oklahoma or Texas to win the championship because they did not want those two teams to lead the SEC to lead the Big 12 with a championship.
Right. Yeah.
So they got Oklahoma, an Oklahoma State game. That game was terrible. Well, like I said, when you watch it, we
Mm-hmm.
can sit here and compare. When we come back and say, "Hey, man, hey, I saw that game. It was crazy."
Yeah.
It's blatant when you have bad calls, and the ref ain't gonna make them all. I'm not gonna sit here and blame the refs. We've had some blown calls, and
Yeah, yeah. We
but if you go look at it, and anybody that wants to be a realist, Oklahoma never ever the last year of the Big 12 got a holding call on the offensive line for another team. We got them called on us, but we never got one.
right.
So, like I say, I don't want to sit here and we're out of the Big 12 now, and I'm glad. But I just think that I don't mind us getting beat, but it's very bad when the refs already have it in their mind from the Big 12 commissioner that he does not want Oklahoma and Texas to win the Big 12 championship. That's
Hmm.
why Oklahoma, when Texas got there, they beat the brakes off Oklahoma State because they
Yeah.
didn't. Because Sark already knew if it's close, it ain't gonna go good for Texas. So they beat the brakes off of them. And so
Right.
watch those two games, and then we'll talk about it later and everything, man. Because it's just sad, man, that the way that happened. So everybody sees that Oklahoma lost to Kansas for the first time in almost 40 years. No,
Yeah, and Kansas is nowhere near football school.
I don't want to say that. I made a mistake. It wasn't 40 years because I think when Mark Mangino was there in the early 2000s, Texas went to the Orange Bowl. I mean, Kansas went to the Orange Bowl. Mark
Mm.
Mangino was there. He was the
So you saying
the
Kansas?
old Kansas went to the Orange Bowl. I want to say 2005 or 4. They were good back in the early 2000s because that was Oklahoma's old OC Mark Mangino taking over for that program. And the only reason why they fired him because he was too tough on the players, and the players didn't like that. That was the last time Kansas had a winning season.
Mm. Yeah,
So
Kansas is not a football school; they're a basketball school. But you said to watch Kansas, and you said Oklahoma State, correct?
yeah. Matter of fact,
The games. Okay.
when we get off here, we gonna FaceTime each other and everything, and no, we're gonna watch that game together. I'm gonna find a way to put that game on, and me and you gonna watch it and break it down. I just want you to see that it's obvious that it happened, but it's sad that
Mm.
you took something from these young men because you didn't want them to be in a championship game
Right.
because you were mad because they were leaving.
Hmm.
So, but anyway,
Yeah.
in closing notes, we gonna jump off the SEC, man. I got something that I wanted to bring to your attention, man. Since you are a Cowboy fan, I wanna I wanna I wanted to give it to you, man. It says that Dallas potentially made an extension offer to CeeDee Lamb for $33 million per year, but CeeDee and his camp declined the
Mhm.
offer. Do you think that this is personal, or do you think that CeeDee is standing on business?
Um, I feel torn in this because I, I do think that my man is balling. I think he's balling. He's definitely, but I also feel like the Cowboys are putting him in the position to be good. Um, they're throwing the ball his way. They're making sure they're getting him the ball. So I think that he's able to benefit off of them putting him in a position to be good. Um, I'm a little bit tired of these players coming in as rookies and they're playing their rookie contracts and they're doing very well. You signed the contract,
Hmm.
play your contract.
Hmm.
And I say that because say you're a rookie and you come in and you're playing and you're not playing well. So should the team be able to come back and say, you know what? You owe us some money because you
Okay.
didn't play well. You know, you didn't play well. So you owe us some money. So if it works on one side of the ball, why it can't work on the other side of the ball? And
Eh,
I'm like, you're a rookie. We're taking a chance on you your first
mhm.
4 years. what most rookie contracts are 4 years.
Yeah.
We're taking a chance on you. You ball out, then when your 4th year comes up, I don't think he should. I think he should just play out his contract, because I don't think you should ever have 2 great years and then on your 3rd year you go ahead and get the extension, because you be a lot better. Your 4th year and 5th year. Now we got a whole nother problem. Now you still saying you're underpaid. But
Yeah.
I just feel like a lot of these rookies, man, they're coming in. The team is putting you in a position to be great, because there's
Yeah.
teams out there who get great players, and because of a coaching style or something like that, they're not getting the ball. They're literally he even gave you a number that most Cowboy fans know. We love 88. We
Yeah.
love the number 88. There've always
Yeah.
been great wide receivers wear that number. He even gave you the number of 88, which means I believe in you. You're
Yeah.
gonna ball. We know football is a sport that you can sign a contract for $30 million a year today and get injured tomorrow.
Yeah.
So yeah, I do believe players in the NFL should get their money, because there's no guaranteed contracts. The
Yeah.
guarantees are all in baseball. But
Yeah.
at the same time, I do believe that you sitting out, you holding out, that shows a lot of selfishness and against the team too. Because now your teammates are looking at you. Well, maybe not nowadays, but I'm like, your teammates are looking at you like, bro, we need you. We trying to win. We're trying to get to the playoffs. We're trying to, and you're thinking of CeeDee Lamb.
Yeah.
So to me, as an owner, I'd say, well, you know what, CD, I know you're trying to make it to the Hall of Fame, but this year right here is going to be the year that you ain't going to be able to have no stats, because we're trying to play ball and you trying to worry about your contract, which you signed. You signed the contract.
Yeah.
So play out your contract.
I think if
So I
Jerry
see it both
Jones,
ways. Both ways.
yeah. Well, I'm a little different and torn. Uh, Not just because CD's OU player. Um, I think that when you have an owner that comes out and says it's not a priority, uh, we're not worrying about signing him. It's not a priority. But then that young man has come out and for those last 3 years, like you said, has balled out, has been the best receiver that you've had in many years, has led the league in receiving, has led the league in receiving yards, most touchdowns for any Dallas Cowboy receiver or rookie. I think that when he hits all his numbers, and I'm pretty sure there are stipulations in there where bonuses and things like that are included. I don't want to get into that because I don't know. I just think that it became personal when the owner is saying that it's not a priority that we sign him right now. So I'm a little bit different, but I wanted to ask you because you're a Dallas Cowboy fan, and I had to ask some other people that are Dallas
Mm-hmm.
Cowboy fans. I was on the phone today with a family member of mine in Mansfield, Texas, and he was talking about that. We just got off the phone about 2 hours ago, Chris Eubanks, and he was telling me that it's unfortunate that it's come to this, is because
Mm-hmm.
it seems like we always have this problem when it comes to players getting their money from Jerry Jones. It always becomes a problem to where they have to pretty much beg and plead, to get money that everyone, but like I said, everyone's not Jerry Jones, but everyone in the landscape is like, hey, he's earned this money like any other receiver has earned. Now, other owners might have be like, hey, I feel different. I want to make sure my guy gets his money so where he ain't got to worry. He ain't got to think about that. He can focus on football and only football. But when you got a player that's worrying about am I really going to be here? Do they want me here? And when an owner says it's not a priority right now, well, you know, that means something because now I'm stressing and I'm worried. Okay, am I going to be here? Do they want me here? I mean, like you said, play your contract out. But like you said, if somebody comes in and say, "Hey, CD, I see that Jerry's not showing you no love. How about we give you 150 million in 4 years to come on over to this side?" Now, if the owner is like, "I'm not worried about it. You sign the contract, you should honor it, you should do this and do that." But then another team is like, "Hey, I'll give you more. Come over here, we'll show you the love." I think that and then you're like, "Okay, Jerry, if you would have done what you're supposed to do, he wouldn't even be looking nowhere else."
Right.
But
Yeah,
I
but
do
like
give
I said,
but yeah, it's two-sided, man. We both you're right,
yeah,
man. I mean, it's it's
yeah,
it's it's a give and take kind of thing because we're not
yeah.
billionaires.
Because like I said, if he had came out and he had bombed, would should the team be able to say, "Hey, you owe us some money"? You
Yeah,
know what I'm saying?
yeah.
And
No,
and
no.
and one thing I'll say about Jerry is everybody knows he does this. He does this. This
Yeah,
only on what that and that's what made me mad about Dak Prescott is him not paying Dak Prescott was like, bro, but you paid Tony Romo sorry but all these years. And he won nothing. So but you
yeah,
was quick to pay, but you was quick to pay him. You was
yeah,
quick to pay Tony Romo. But we know
yeah,
what that's about. We know the
yeah,
NFL we know what that's about. You
yeah,
paid Tony Romo to all that. He's like a son to me. Like, come
yeah.
on, bro. He's not your son. You have a
That's a
son. And
that's an image thing, man.
nepotism. He's in the front
Yeah,
office. Like,
yeah,
you know what I'm saying?
yeah,
So when they talk about LeBron James and his son nepotism, I don't care because there's nepotism all over the place.
oh yeah,
Jerry Jones
always,
has his son in the front office. The Raiders owner is the son of the owner. Like Jeannie
yeah,
Buss, daughter of the owner.
of the owner,
There's
yeah.
nepotism everywhere. But
Well,
when
you're
we
gonna
get back to the
go ahead,
when we
go ahead.
get back to the paying of the players, I'm like, when it's all said and done, you did sign a 4-year contract
yeah,
to play under your contract.
yeah, yeah. Hey, man. Hey,
And
like I
and
said,
then
I
and then
see both
and
sides.
real quick, and two, we know that once certain players start achieving way more money, it hurts the team because
Yeah,
now you have no
you
money
can't
to
go get
pay
anybody
anybody
else.
else.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Well, there will always be money due to TV
Mm-hmm.
rights, due to the NFL giving you your individual checks to each owner for representing the shield of the NFL. Uh, TV rights, uh, deals with Coca-Cola, Pepsi, Budweiser, Miller Lite. There's all type of sponsorship and everything, man, that's going on that these players and these coaches and these teams get. So money's going to always be there. But
Mm-hmm.
that's how billionaires stay rich. You know, they have to be tight with
Yeah.
their money. They don't spend money the way that we spend money. They don't think the way that we think because when you're a billionaire, your thinking
Right.
process is a whole nother level than what we think about. So, but hey, man, that's that's the world we live in, man, and that's how it rolls sometimes, man. But thank God I'm not a billionaire and an owner. I got to worry about that kind of stuff, man. I'm just gonna stay in my lane and do what I do. That's pretty much it.
Yeah.
But Mike, man, I appreciate you, man, for coming in tonight, man. Sorry, man, that we missed out on Sunday. I'm gonna try to get back on Sundays, man, and try to get something better. Trying to get this place set up, man, to where we can come in together, man, and knock it out instead of having the technical difficulties, man. Because I
Right.
know that it's not you. There's been some outages all over Charlotte today.
Mm-hmm.
At my job, internet went down, and I don't know what's going on, but thank you, man, for coming in, man, and rocking with me, man. Like I said, Coaches Talk with Mike, and Coach Ricks. Until we meet again, man. I think next Sunday we're gonna jump on here again, man. We'll have a recap of the first game. First game that will be this Saturday. I believe it is Florida State playing this week. So I'm looking forward to that. I'm gonna see who that is. Florida State is playing this week. Let me see, Florida State versus, and we'll watch that game, get a breakdown of that game, and see what we can do. Hold on, right quick. I'm gonna try to bear with me and see who they play. They are playing. Oh, that's not it. Hey, Mike. Quick question.
Mhm.
When if the Cowboys don't sign him and things don't go the way they're supposed to go, where do you think he might end up?
What team?
Yeah.
Oh man, that's a hard call right now. Because I haven't looked at the salary caps. I haven't looked at what team really needs a wide receiver like that. There's a lot that goes into. I think football is when it comes to football and salary caps and who needs who and what where. I think it's a lot more difficult than basketball and baseball. Because first off,
Yeah.
you have to have every I think every team needs a 1-2 punch at the wide receiver.
Yep.
But nowadays they're not paying the running backs, so that's not where the money's going. So you have these teams where he would have to fit in with a 1-2 punch. Then when he gets there, is he gonna be happy because you got another one on the team? You're not gonna get the 135 receptions that you're not gonna get the in Dallas. You're not going to get the 1,709 yards that you had in Dallas. You know what I'm saying? So you have to know that your stats are going to go down. So I would have to I'm going to really look into that. That's a great question. I'm going to have to look into that, and maybe we could talk about that the next time too, as far as like, where would he go? Because like I said, as an owner, bruh, I'm gonna need you to play out your contract, or you're gonna be sitting your butt on that bench all year, and you're gonna lose out on a whole year
He ain't gonna do that.
of stats.
Those fans are eating his ass alive. He ain't gonna do that. Those fans will eat
but here's the
him
thing
alive.
too. But see, here's the thing: Cowboy fans, man, we loyal to a fault. We loyal to a fault. I'm gonna always be a Cowboys fan, but I'm not that delusional Cowboys fan. Like. I don't even think we should be on television 3 games this year because we haven't earned it.
Yeah.
We haven't earned it. You have to earn being on television. You have to earn, Thanksgiving games. You should have to earn stuff like that, not just keep giving it to you. So, and that's why I think they lose all the time because they're not hungry. They're not a hungry team.
Yeah. But that game, man, is Florida State versus Georgia Tech. That's Saturday. That's Saturday's game.
Oh, okay.
That's
gonna be Florida State's gonna win that game.
We'll see. We'll see, man. I've seen stranger things
Georgia
happen,
Tech
man.
I've seen good in a long time.
Hey, ever since Megatron left. Ever since Megatron left, man, that was that was the last time they, and they ain't been good ever since, man. So, it is what it is.
Right.
But hey, man, I'm gonna jump off here, man.
Georgia Tech can't beat Georgia State.
Oh man, I can't believe you said that. Can't believe you said that, man. Hey, you gonna make somebody mad, man, to where they gonna cancel you, boy, because that's them fighting words where I'm from.
I'm just playing.
All
right,
good,
brother.
man.
I love you, man. Until next
I love
week.
You too, man. Have a good one, man. And like I said, thank you guys, man, for catching us with Coaches Talk with Mike, and Coach Ricks. We're gonna try to do this again, man. Sunday, this coming Sunday, man. We're gonna chop it up, man, and recap the Florida State Georgia Tech game, man. Until then, man, signing out, man. You guys take care. Coach Ricks out, man. Mike out. Talk to you later, bud.
Peace.
Right back.